Hi, I'm Sophie Burrell and I'm going to be sharing my top tips when it comes to learning an iconic guitar solo. So when I go to learn guitar solos from big bands like Guns N' Roses, Van Halen, Pink Floyd, Metallica, like the greats, I'm always aiming to be as accurate as I possibly can be to the original song, but also adding a bit of my own flavour so it's still me. So here are 3 things that I do every single time that I go to learn an iconic solo in order to achieve that. So tip number 1 is listen, don't look. Tabs are really useful at giving us a rough idea of where we are playing and what we should be playing, but they tell us absolutely nothing about feel. Feeling comes from the really tiny details, so I'm talking how long a vibrato is held, how kind of like aggressive that vibrato is, how long a bend is held, whether a note is slid into, whether a note is picked or played with a hammer-on or a pull-off, the tiny things like that. The key to playing an iconic solo accurately is all down to the feeling, and the only way you can kind of figure that out is by listening to those tiny weeny details, so I always make sure to look out for those. Tip number 2 is tone. You always want to make sure that you're using an appropriate and suited tone to whatever it is that you're learning and playing. So for example, you wouldn't go and play a Hendrix track with a tone that you would use to play Slayer. I mean, you could, but it's just not going to be as tight, it's not going to be as accurate, and it's just not going to capture the vibe of the thing that you're aiming for unless you have a stylistically suitable tone to play that thing. To me, tone isn't necessarily the be-all and end-all when it comes to playing other people's stuff, especially iconic solos. I believe that it should all be really in the fingers, in the sense that you should already be really strong at what you're playing, and the tone is like an added bonus and a sweetener to what you're playing, just adding to the overall kind of vibe of it and helping to capture that accuracy. But having an appropriate tone definitely makes things a lot easier, so always aim to be as accurate as you can with the tone as well. Tip number 3, slow it down. The most helpful thing that I do when it comes to learning solos, especially when I'm learning by ear, is to slow it down. By slowing it down, you're going to hear all of the details that you need to hear in order to play the solo super accurately, and also it's going to be so much more manageable and bite-sized. You're going to find it so much easier to memorize those patterns and really ingrain the solo into your muscle memory by tackling it at a slower pace and in kind of like bite-sized sections. You can do this super easily on YouTube with literally any track, and also it's going to help to improve your ear training. So those are some of my top tips when it comes to learning iconic guitar solos. I really hope that you find them useful. I want to say a huge thank you to InTune Monthly and PRS for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really hope that you enjoyed those tips, and I will see you later.